What's up, you guys? It's Jonno! Welcome to another episode of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Today, I want to show you some tactics that I used to turn my Charizard from the Tera Raid event into a Tera Raid battling Charizard. That's right, we got a 7-star Charizard from that Tera Raid event. And the question is, what should we do with this Charizard? I was thinking to myself, maybe I'll turn Charizard into a Tera Raid battler. I've been trying to put together a robust team of various Pokemon to take on Tera Raid battles. I need a Pokemon from every different type. So I'm going to take this Charizard, which you can see here has the mightiest mark. That's the one that I got from the 7-star Tera Raid event. And I'm just going to change it up a little bit so it can be more useful for Tera Raids. Okay, so let's dive right on into it. Charizard is a special attacker. As you can see here, it's got a really robust special attack. You get your Charizard with maximum IVs and it already has a modest nature, so we don't need to do too much to Charizard. The first thing I'm going to do is change its moveset. Fire Blast misses a lot. It's really not a great move. I'm sure you guys noticed while you were battling Charizard in the Tera Raid event that sometimes it would do Fire Blast against you and Fire Blast would miss. You would get lucky in that scenario because obviously Charizard missing you with a very strong attack is super advantageous. So the first thing I'm going to do is swap out Fire Blast for Flamethrower. Flamethrower is just one of those moves that everybody agrees is the best fire move. It has a very low chance to miss, and it does really robust damage, and it still has a chance to burn. The next thing I'm going to put on my Pokemon is Solar Beam. The reason we want Solar Beam is because during a sunny day, Solar Beam will only take one turn to charge. Normally, Solar Beam takes a turn to charge and then a turn to actually move, but instead, when there's a sunny day, it will move in the same turn that you use it, just like a normal Pokemon move, and that's really advantageous because it takes that from 2 turns to execute to 1 turn to execute. Very good, so we want to have the Solar Beam on there. Of course, the next move we want to get is Sunny Day. If you guys don't have the TMs for these, you may have to look up a guide on where you can find the TM out in the open world. You may be able to craft them if you've already found the TM, which is what I've done here, but if you've never found that TM, then you probably won't be able to craft them, so you may have to look up a guide on where these TMs are located on the ground. You can find those guides online pretty easily, so I'm not going to detail that information here. Just go ahead and look up where to find the Sunny Day TM, where to find other TMs that you might need that you don't have from this guide. Alright, so the one move that I am keeping is Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse is a really good move, and of course we've got that Dragon Tera Type, so we're going to keep Dragon Pulse. That's actually a great move. We've got Flamethrower, we've got Solar Beam, and we've got Sunny Day. So instead of being a very targeted Fire-type Pokemon like I would normally do, like I've done in my previous build guides, I'm going to make this a well-rounded attacker that can go into many different situations, and it might not necessarily have the best Tera Type for a specific situation, but we know it will do a lot of damage. So for instance, I'm using Sunny Day and I'm using Solar Beam. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'll take this grass type move up against a water type Pokemon or something else where a grass type would be useful. It just means that I'm going to try and get the most damage possible using the moves that I think are the most strategic. So Charizard, not necessarily going to be a targeted fire type attacker. I'm just going to use it as a well-rounded attacker that I can bring into many different situations. Next up, we need to decide which held item we want to use. I read a bunch of guides online that said to use the leftovers. Personally, I think any situation where you would naturally use the leftovers is a situation where you could also consider using the Shell Bell. I like the Shell Bell. I think Shell Bell is better than the leftovers. It gives you more health in a lot of situations. So personally, I'm going with the Shell Bell, even though the online guide said to use the leftovers. I just don't particularly believe in the leftovers. Personally, I really believe in the Shell Bell. Alright, so next up we do need to modify the EVs. Remember, EVs and IVs are different. IVs are individual values that your Pokemon comes with, and of course we've got max IVs on this Charizard. It came with already best IVs, but we don't have any EVs on it, so I'm going to use the Special Attack Feather, which is the Genius Feather. I've got 252 of those that we're going to add. Of course, your EVs max out for any given stat at 252, and you can do 2 stats to max, which means 252 on Special Attack, 252 on Health, and then we've got 6 leftover IVs that you can use on whatever you want. 6 is so small that it's really negligible, but you could put it on Special Defense or Defense if you wanted to. So of course we've got to take a trip over to the Chansey Supply. At the Chansey Supply we are going to buy a whole bunch of HP ups which we're going to use on Charizard to maximize that HP EV. So I already maximized the special attack using my Genius Feathers. I happen to have a bunch of those. I can't believe I had as many as I had. I had over 250, and then I don't have enough of the HP Feathers, so we're going to use the HP up. Remember, Feathers give you 1 EV at a time, and the HP up and the protein, the iron, all those special vitamin items, those give you 10 EVs at a time, which is why those items are so expensive. If you're looking for a way to farm money because you don't have money for these EV items, just remember you should be raiding all the time, all day, every day. Anytime there's a raid event, take advantage of that raid event. They always drop high value items. Tera Raids will drop high value items like nuggets and comet shards. They will also drop large XP candies, which you can sell for an extremely high value, especially because you get so many large XP candies. You may eventually get a full stack of large XP candies, and you can sell those for millions. So you can become a millionaire very quickly just by doing raids. So don't forget to do raids when you have spare time. You definitely want to do the 5-star and 6-star raids so you can get Herba Mystica drops, but you'll also get the added bonus of becoming rich along the way as well. And that's how I got all the money that you see I'm using in this video. Okay, so whenever I do one of these build guides, I always end up spending the most time on EVs, and that's because EVs are simply the most complicated thing in the entire game. In my opinion, they're extremely complicated. The more I learn, the more it starts to make sense to me, and they don't feel as complicated. But if you're new to EVs, they definitely can feel very complicated. You can see here, once you click the L button on your stat screen, it shows you your EVs. If the EV chart is blue, that means that you have maximized your EVs, and you're gonna have to use berries to lower those EVs. If your EV chart is yellow, however, that means you have not maximized your EVs yet. And that's really important to know because they don't really tell you that in the game, so it can be a little bit confusing. So just remember, go to your stats page, click the L button on your controller, and if the EVs are blue, that means they're maximized. If they're yellow, that means they're not maximized, and that is really important information to know when you're messing around with your EVs. The last thing we need to do is check on the hyper training guy. We actually don't need to do this. I'm just doing it for the purposes of the video. You can see here that I've already got the best stats possible. Now, best and hyper trained actually mean the exact same thing, but best means that they came with a best stat. So in this case, Charizard already has the best IVs, but hyper trained means you actually spent a bottle cap on it. There's really not that big of a difference. If anybody knows the difference, let me know down in the comments. I'm sure that there's something to do with breeding maybe, but for the purposes of this video, there's no difference. We already have best stats, and you can see the legendary Pokemon that I got came with 3 best stats. Charizard came with 6 best stats. So obviously that's a really big advantage. All right, everybody, that's going to be it for this video. Now you've got yourself a nice strong Charizard that you can use for Tera Raids. I hope you guys enjoyed this content and found it useful. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you to all of my amazing subscribers, and peace.